from what happened tonight. Obviously, as everyone knows, there was a rally at the State House tonight. We estimate that there were about 500 individuals there. I want to emphasize that was a very peaceful rally. For all intents and purposes, we understood, talking with the planners of the rally, that there was no intent on anything violent. There was no intent on any injuries, and there was no intent on any civil disobedience tonight. So we want to make that very clear. Our job here tonight was, honestly, to protect people's First Amendment rights, to make sure that everybody was safe, and to make sure that everybody went home at the end of the night safely and uninjured. So after the rally was done at the State House, we had multiple individuals leave the State House and then began walking around downtown Indianapolis, marching across the downtown area, very peacefully, I may add. There were no problems there. The marchers came over here to the circle, went onto the circle, continued their rally here on the circle. At that point, like I said, IMPD, we blocked the streets, we allowed them free access to wherever they needed to go, and we wanted to make sure that they got there safely. After the rally here on the circle, two groups then split up. One went north, one went south. The group that went north was the one that actually splintered off and then began to get into the road. They began walking into the roadway, causing cars to stop what they were doing to avoid individuals from getting hit. Obviously, our officers did our best to block streets and to provide a safe pathway for those individuals that chose to get into the street and walk into the street against traffic. Once they got towards the area of Illinois and Washington, from my understanding, we had a group of individuals that stopped. This group then began to chant and make threats directly at our officers. Threats such as kill the police, trying to instigate this particular crowd towards violence towards our officers. At that point, it was decided that the actual instigators were going to be placed under arrest to keep that crowd peaceful and to keep violence from occurring. Once those individuals that were trying to incite this crowd to attack the police were attempted to be taken into custody, that's when groups in the larger group began to throw rocks at our officers and prevent that arrest from occurring. Luckily, we were able to place those two instigators under arrest, and it was at that point that the rocks were thrown at our officers. Like I said, once that arrest took place, multiple groups then broke up and splintered throughout Indianapolis and continued their protest at that time. After that point, we had a few more arrests, and luckily now, as we speak, most of the groups have gone home and downtown has returned to a normal Saturday night. Traffic is open, pedestrian traffic is free-flowing, and everything else has calmed down for the evening. I'm going to invite Chief Riggs up real quick to give a quick statement, and then we'll answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for being here. Obviously, the first thing I want to say to the residents of Indianapolis, downtown is open for business, and it's open for business because our officers once again went above and beyond. They were extremely patient tonight. Remember, this event started about 5:30, and it was going to be scheduled to run till about 8. At that point, a lot of people left, but some of the protesters continued. I will tell you this, we believe that we had some instigators that arrived in our city, most of those from out of town. There were some local individuals as well that we're looking at as we continue this investigation. Right now there are 7 people that have been arrested. 3 of those individuals are from out of town, 4 from here in Indianapolis. There's 2 other individuals that we have spoken to. We do not have enough evidence at this time to put them in custody. However, they were from out of town as well. Once again, though, our officers provided safety for these individuals that were using their First Amendment rights tonight. They came to the circle. They dispersed. I think Major Riddle gave you a very good rundown of everywhere they would been tonight. Our officers protected them from traffic. It is disappointing to us that a handful of them chose violence. The good news is that the rest of the crowd did not participate in that violence. We were able to restore order quickly. Unfortunately, we have 2 officers injured. I hear that their injuries are minor at this time. But once again, remember, the violence took place almost 4 hours after the police department had been walking with these individuals and trying to protect them, and yet someone still tried to interject violence. We do have a report that some of the protesters showed up with backpacks full of rocks If anyone has any video of that or any information, we're asking you to call police. We want to have peaceful protests in our community. We want people to exercise their First Amendment right. However, we cannot allow for us to have violence or property damage. Fortunately, no property was damaged tonight. Unfortunately, some individuals had to go to jail and 2 officers are injured. With that, I'll certainly take any questions you may
Chief,
have.
what does it tell you that people are willing to physically harm, injure police officers to make some type of political statement?
It's extremely disappointing, Abdul. We live in a free democracy. People have a right to vote, which we have. They have a right to protest, and we supported that right to protest, even though numerous ordinances and numerous laws were broken tonight with some of the protesting, blocking traffic, making it difficult for individuals maneuver in the streets. We did not take any enforcement action. We want to make sure that their First Amendment rights are protected, even to the point that we shut down traffic. But we even had individuals that wanted to come here and counter-protest. Our officers worked diligently with them to ask them to leave so we didn't inflame the situation, and they did. So you can see our officers have had a very long night. They've remained very patient, and we're very grateful that we were able to get through this with only 2 minor injuries.
Chief, you wouldn't characterize any of these folks as rioters, would you, or would you?
Well, obviously I would characterize them as individuals that are criminals now because they assaulted police officers. They were trying to, we believe, cause a riot or that type of situation in our city. And I think that says a lot about the response of the police department. It also says a lot about the other protesters that did not participate in that type of activity.
So you wouldn't say got to be?
No, it was a small incident of violence at that time where rocks were thrown, but it's still an act of violence that can't be tolerated in the city.
Chief, do you have any more information on the extent of the injuries for those officers?
Right now, I'm just told it's very minor. I'm not sure they'll even go to the hospital to get checked out. It's my understanding that even though they were injured, they continued to man their post and work throughout the rest of the night. As far as I know, they may still be working right now.
And do you know the hometowns of the gentlemen arrested?
No, I don't have that. We will make that available to you. The other thing we're asking for is that we are getting reports that they were passing out some literature. If you have some of that literature, let us know. We would like to know what that is, if there's any threats against any of our officers, if there's any threats against anything in the city, another event. If there's another event in the city, we will be there. We will be there like we were today, protecting people's First Amendment rights, shutting down traffic, whatever we need to do. But we have to say as a city, no matter where you stand politically, that we are not going to tolerate violence in our city. We're not going to tolerate violence against the police. And fortunately, Ty, we didn't have any property damage that we know of. We'll continue to look throughout the city. But right now, it looks like we had a minor incident, a very long protest. But right now, it's a peaceful downtown. People are still going about business. And quite frankly, a lot of people didn't realize that this was going on throughout the city.
Does it worry you?
Yes, there were some pepper balls that were launched into the crowd when the rocks started being thrown. That seemed to subdue the crowd a little bit. It got a little tense there for a while. The crowd did comply, got off the street, got onto the sidewalk, which was helpful.
Where exactly, Chief, did this take place?
I'll get you all the details. I've been listening to so many intersections and crowd. I don't want to give erroneous information, but we'll get that to you a little bit later.
And what is this? Do you worry about, Indianapolis, was big on tourism because of our convention business. We had people here out of town. Do you worry that, at least in the short run, this is going to be sort of the new norm that you folks are going to have to worry about?
Well, I hope not. And I think that we have a long history here of Indianapolis of having peaceful demonstrations. I think that'll continue. We can't let our city be tarnished over 7 arrests. I mean, this is a handful compared to the amount of people that came here and used their First Amendment right, and they did it the right way. We hopefully, if we have any more protests, regardless of what the protest is about, that we'll continue to have that. But one thing's for sure, our police department will be there. They will be patient, and we will take every means necessary not to have to take any type of action. But when there is violence, we have to take action. That is our responsibility as a police department.
Did anyone you arrest have costumes or disguises that would make
I don't have any of that information now. It's still early. What we'll do is we'll gather some information. We're going to be working tonight and then also tomorrow and gathering some additional information. Anything new that comes out, we will send that to you as soon as possible. Thank you all.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.